Hey guys, Lizardlea here for Star Wars Stormtrooper Day 7. So, there is the progress from Day 6. Dang it, there. So, coming along. I finally started the light blue. So, there is progress. It's slow, but it's happening. Absolutely. I don't remember where I was going with that. Alright, I'm not milking this. I'm not intentionally taking forever. Yeah. I still get the tingling numbness in my hands. I don't remember if I talked about it, but I was getting tingling numbness, like from my, the bottom of my sternum down. And that's pretty much gone unless I specifically bend over, really, really far, by the way. Like I'm trying to pop my back far. Yeah. So I just every once in a while get a new symptom and then it fixes itself. Sorry, I'm yawning. I don't like daylight savings. I'm happy the sun is rising at 6 a.m. again, but I'm not happy that it's setting at 5 p.m. 5! See, to me, that just means, during this time, we shouldn't be working 8 hours because that's the only daylight there is, basically. That's just unacceptable. You shouldn't be having to do that in a cubicle or in your office at a computer. Okay. I'm gonna go cross stitch. Hopefully I will stop yawning. I apologize. Granted, you won't know if I'm yawning when I'm cross stitching, so yay! Alright, so David's been gone a while and it is 10:29 p.m. on Friday, and I'm supposed to have a video up tomorrow, and I don't currently have one, and I'm really tired. So I just want to put in some narration and, go to bed because I'm really tired. And I don't really know what to talk about. We just finished Venture Bros with our friend Robert, and I did like it. I enjoyed it overall. There were absolutely parts I freaking hated and could not stand, and at least certain episodes I could definitely not recommend to someone who was never a teenage boy, because there was a lot I just never found funny. The two of them would literally be laughing out loud to the point where I'm like, what did they just say? Because I can't hear it, and you're so loud, my brain cannot read the subtitles. I'm just not processing what they're saying. And I was just like, they would tell me what it said, and I'm like, yeah, it's still not funny. It just, that was never my humor. But there were definitely good jokes. I can't deny that at all. I don't regret watching the show overall. I'm quite happy with it, and my favorite character in the end got the happiest ending I think he could have. It was great. Another character that originally was my favorite, but, was dethroned, really, really, really ticked me off in the second to last episode prior to the movie. And I think by the end of the movie I have forgiven him. Because someone else has forgiven him, and that's what was more important to me. I don't want to, spoil it. And David has been gone for, so long. They better not be making out in the car. There he is. As I accuse you of making out with Robert in the car for taking too long.
Love you too, babe.
Love you more. I'm just saying, you guys were gone for a while.
I was chatting with Robert.
Making out in the car. Okay, continue. Tell you two more.
No.
That means you have something to hide. All right, would you like to give a basic rundown of Venture Bros?
It's the best show ever.
No, it's not.
You're right. It's like up there with all the others, though, like BoJack and Archer.
Oh, the two I haven't seen.
The two you will never see.
Yeah, absolutely not. Also, because Venture Bros, like I said to you and Robert, isn't even in my top 10 shows. Like, it cannot breach that with the level of jokes that I did not find funny.
It would be a harder onboarding than Venture Bros, but I think there would be actually more jokes you would like in Archer if you could get into it, but it's not worth it.
Yeah, it really isn't.
You won't.
I need a break. I want to just enjoy something 100%.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, there's a million other things we should watch anyways. I wouldn't start you on anything now. But no, the purpose of Venture Bros is basically take, like, the Hardy Boys, Johnny Quest, all that stuff from that era, and then kind of
the Hardy Boys as in the brothers from WWE?
No.
Who are the Hardy Boys?
As in the mystery-solving children of the 60s.
Well, I wouldn't know about that. That wasn't played on AFN growing up.
I am now it was a book series.
I still wouldn't know about it.
Now that you bring it up, that was probably intentional. Anyways.
Yeah, I'm just saying, the first thing that shows up is some book called The Tower Treasure, but the next one is The Hardy Boys, the brothers.
Yes, so they're both brothers. But the point is that
okay,
they took...
well, there's the brothers I know and the brothers I don't.
The show starts as a sort of, yes, admittedly, gross and dumb parody of, like, what would happen if Johnny Quest and the Hardy Boys and whatnot grew up? How would the world change? And it wasn't just like, oh, well, it's going to stay with super scientists and whatnot. Like, just kind of the modern world dealing with, like, lunatics who arch each other and how would that handle and what would happen here and what would happen there. And the reason the show is one of my favorites is because from that incredibly... Like, this is the sort of junk that you could usually make jokes about when you're in, like, college with your friends. We're like, wouldn't it be funny if this thing, but it was darker or grosser? They turn it into just such a wonderfully well-written, very, very humorous show that also has an incredible cast and some really, really, really good arcs. One of which you loved.
Oh, yeah.
At least.
By the end, my favorite character had a spectacular arc.
Yes. And of course it's not one of her favorites because none of her favorite characters died.
That's not true. My second favorite character died multiple times.
They got better.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Definitely.
He would argue differently.
Not now, he wouldn't.
No, but at one point he would have had an existential crisis about it.
Yeah, but at that point he was a whiny little child. So, either way.
They're still whiny little children by the end of it.
The show, like, I've watched some interviews with the creators and read I have a book that they made that talks about their whole process. And one of the most important things I read in it, which really shows in the show, is that, like, yeah, in our early seasons we were like, our comedy was either dark or gross, because that's kind of like how you subvert things when you're still learning how to write, is like, well, what if it was darker, or what if this wasn't, or what if it was like they were losers and it was sad, but they managed to turn it into something else, which is like, well, what if they're just people, with all their flaws and strengths and whatnot, but still in this wacky, weird world, like, a running gag in the movie we just watched is one character who's kind of out of shape in comparison to the incredible shape of certain characters in the show is stuck running up and down flights of stairs when the elevators still work. Just really stupid little things like that, or just, like perfect relationships, or, you don't like him, but one of the main characters, Rusty, who's the dad and kind of the main character of the show, kind of not, because it kind of shuffles its main characters as it sees fit, is a really good example of a flawed human being. He's not a good person. He has a lot of really crummy traits, but you can understand a lot of those when you really think about, like, well, they give you enough context as to why some of those traits exist. Like, he grew up as he's Johnny Quest grown up, pretty much, even though Johnny Quest is legitimately in the show.
Yes, he is.
He doesn't, he doesn't have a normal understanding of how things work because his dad took him on all these adventures with, as you find out, his lunatic friends and whatnot, and he's basically been traumatized and has just a completely screwed up view of the world. But he's also living in his dad's shadow because his dad was like James Bond meets Reed Richards meets, all the powerful men of the world, and Hugh Hefner, arguably. So he's just this pathetic in comparison. Well, he is pathetic, but at the same time, it's sort of like he never figured out how to succeed in spite of it, or get out of his dad's shadow, so he's this pathetic, miserable little man, but he still does, love his children, even if he's a crummy dad, and he's still a better dad than his dad was.
True.
And, in his own way, he's kind of a good person. He's just not good at being a good person, is maybe a good way to put it. And at the same time, you have, the perfect father and husband, who's also just the most terrifying person in the entire show. Yeah.
I love him so much.
Yes, we all knew.
He's not until the final season, or maybe the season right before.
His first appearance is the last episode of the season right before.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Because I was like, God, when are they going to... Doesn't he show... And I'm like, nope. Yep, there he is.
Yep.
And then likewise, I forgot that the very last episode of the final season is one of my favorite, or has a lot of my favorite moments. I thought they were all spread out and earlier. Nope, it's all right there. And, especially past a certain point, you can pretty much throw a dart at the board, and I'll tell you, 12 moments from any episode that I love. Ignore me. That one's early enough that there's still some bad episodes.
Oh, absolutely. That episode itself, outside of him, was pretty gross and wasn't great. But I did love him.
Yes. Ignore me! Which is The Day the Earth Stood Still parody, I think. A couple of those things. But yeah, it's very clearly a labor of love. These are people... It's got the same... Or at least the reason I love it is because it's the exact same energy as when I'm sitting around with my friends who are nerds and we've all watched weird stuff or know about strange games. And we go, yeah, but what if this or what if that? And it's why I like Abridged series stuff. It's why I like, that weird animation thing that you didn't like. Or, the werewolf. Or the vampire.
The Vampire and Masquerade? I was enjoying that.
Yeah. But, they do other stuff that you've seen.
That I was not, yeah.
And it's because it's a bunch of friends sitting around going yeah, this is pretty funny. And in the case of Venture Bros, over the course of the show, they really learn how to write. And I think, given that I've been talking with you about Worms so much, about all of its failings and how, gosh, it would be really cool if someone took this and did it right. I think Venture Brothers is a great example of people figuring out how to do it all right. And they see the same, or they run into the same writing and story problems that many, many other stories do. Okay, how do we handle multiple protagonists? How do we give everybody their moment in the sun? How do we handle realistic relationships? How do we handle not making one person too cool or too great? How do we handle introducing someone else who's supposed to be cool, but we haven't really shown that enough yet? And they nail it. And heck, they even handle gee, wouldn't it be cool if we thought of this 7 seasons ago? Can we back into this? Yep. Unlike, say, I don't know, Bleach, where the writer just goes, oh, it was secretly this all the time. And you're you didn't plan that at all. You're just writing something to have a new problem. I'm sure Venture Bros ran into the same problems. I'd love to know at what points they came up with what ideas. But it works so effortlessly. There are very, very, very few moments where, especially as I was rewatching it with you and paying more attention with what I knew, it all feels earned. The biggest that doesn't make any sense moments are dumb things related to dumb one-off jokes we were talking about with Robert. The actual big plot points all feel like they could have been planned from the very first episodes because they backed into it so well. Or maybe some of them they did have planned in the back of their mind but didn't really bring to the forefront till later. But I mean, it's an excellent example of what if you took something that wasn't serious at all and made it just incredibly strong writing? And the comedy's really good. Yes, it can be gross as well. The gross humor at least gets a bit better later on.
No, it really doesn't.
In that there are at least funny jokes, as opposed to early on where it's just ha ha ha, this is gross. Isn't that funny? Or some of them. But
yeah, not all of them.
I'm well aware, yes.
I'm being honest for the audience.
I know, but you're looking at me.
Well, yeah. Who am I supposed to look at?
And judgment in your eyes. But no,
honesty.
I legitimately think that, like, Venture Brothers, BoJack, actually probably BoJack, then Venture Brothers, and then...
Archer?
You know, Archer doesn't deserve to be in that group. Like, it's a good show, it's a fun show, but it's not, like, I absolutely would say that if you're, like, trying to study something, or, like, hey, I want to see something that's, like, a legitimate quasi-work of art, or just actual work of art, those two shows qualify. And they're not shows you would expect to, especially with how they start. Side note, BoJack is incredibly depressing and also disgusting, so heads up. But yeah, Venture Brothers is legitimately hilarious, legitimately well written, and like almost every single character on that show has great arcs, feels like real people, and like the thing you can feel them doing is they're like, okay, we introduced this one-note character because we wanted a ghost pirate, and one of our voice actors wanted to do ghost voices, but hey, we need to do this. Like, what if we brought back the ghost pirate? He'd be funny, yeah. And it's like, okay, we brought him back again, but we're kind of getting tired of the pirate gag. So, like, how could he fit into this world still? And, like, now he's Steve Jobs, but he's still the ghost pirate.
Yep, he still talks that way.
Yeah, and, like, it's just characters you would never expect stick around and have some of the best arcs of the show. Again, Liz's favorite character, and I won't spoil it, or she might, but I won't spoil it in case people want to watch it, goes from a character that you're like, ah ha ha, that's a kind of funny bit, especially if you know your Shakespeare, into, like, just an incredible character, like a legitimately wholesome one, a well-done one, and they take characters who, in other shows, would become, you know, objective failures, or they'd ruin their own life, or, like...
I mean, for a little while there, he almost did.
Well, yeah, and they toy with that. But the difference is they allow them to succeed. They allow them,
like, them to grow.
Like, they decided that a certain relationship that you would never suspect is actually going to be a good relationship. But that doesn't mean it's a perfect relationship. They absolutely...
however, the best one on the show.
Well, yes, by a large... Well,
other than Red Death.
Well, I was going to say that features in any capacity. But, you know... That's the whole point, is that it's a real relationship. They have struggles, they have problems. Like, one of them is clearly imperfect in a way that is sometimes quite stupid and scummy, but at the same time, their spouse knows that that's who they are, and, like, you know, will absolutely ream them for it, but at the same time...
They still love them.
Yeah, you know, like, I know who I'm dealing with here, and yada yada yada, and it's really good. And again, all these characters get great moments, both comedically and just like, oh, congrats, you get to be the competent one for the next 20 seconds. Some more than others, but, you know. Like, I think I could name a good moment for every, like, character I could think of in that show. Like, be it, like, bit villain or, you know, major reoccurring person. Like, they all have really funny and really cool moments where they're either just subverting their role because it's kind of like, well, yes, this person's also a dad dealing with his difficult daughter, or, you know, oh, yeah, you know, or they're just legitimately terrifying moments like, yes, this is a supervillain who's essentially a mob boss. And their evil speeches are really good and funny and stupid at the same time. It's quite awesome. So it's my fault the icon is delicate. Or the logo.
Ah, yes.
Your thoughts, Liz?
Well, I wanted to go, like, I just wanted to find out, possibly spoilers, what's your favorite moment for Rusty?
Rusty?
Yes.
Spanakopita is pretty good. Well, no, you say that, but like...
Oh, I laughed at that episode, it's true. It was a good episode. It turned out to actually be wholesome.
Yeah.
And I hate Rusty. So it was super weird to see him in a wholesome environment.
His obvious, like, best moment is when he's doing the guild and the OSI meeting, and he's standing in his father's shoes.
Yeah.
Because that's literally the point of him kind of showing all of his good traits at once. Because, like, you kind of get little smatterings of, like, yeah, he does care about his kids. He is trying to be an adult. He's just a horribly broken, selfish, stupid person.
Yeah.
But, like, this is the one moment where all of his traits kind of line up, and he realizes that, like, oh, it's just like being a parent, and I'm kind of an okay parent. And so I'll just yell at them like they're my kids, because they're just a bunch of idiot children. And that's literally the speech he gives.
Yeah.
And that's a really good moment. And
Okay.
he has moments with Jonas, the other Jonas, the spoiler Jonas.
I miss Jonas.
Yes, you do. And then, I mean, like, especially on rewatch when you understand his character better. Again, I don't know how much they backed into it and how much of it was coincidental, but there are definitely moments where, like, yeah, I kind of see, like, the Rusty that he's going to turn into showing, like, when they decide to give him deeper character, then, ha, isn't it funny? You know, what's his name? Johnny Quest turned out to be a loser, ha, ha, ha. Like, they do a good job. And, like, you know, he does legitimately care about his kids. And there's a really good speech by J.K. Simmons about how he handles his children's boo-boos. It's in that warped world he grew up in, a perfectly logical and reasonable way to handle things, but also quite horrifying.
Yeah.
Oh wait, yeah, that time he actually was.
Yeah.
And they have so much fun with it. Brock is obviously great.
By the end, I literally didn't care about him anymore.
That's kind of the thing.
I cared more about hatred, and they stopped caring about hatred in the final season.
Well, because both Brock and Hatred have kind of run out their gag, and they've given them their arc, and they're kind of like... They don't use characters when they don't have anything for them, is the way I've always seen it. Like,
I honestly wanted more scenes of Hatred with his new family. Like,
yeah.
I love that. Like, you know, we got to see Brock early on, and clearly they were family.
Yeah.
And then, full spoilers, he ditched him for a while, and then he came back, and it was, you know, fixed in, like, what, 3 episodes?
Well,
like,
yes
I liked Hatred more overall.
Yeah.
And he was given less time overall. Or at
Yeah.
least it felt like it.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. But, I mean, at the same time, like, that's the thing, is, like, they kind of...
I mean, Brock was still... When Brock came back, he took all of the screen time from Hatred.
Yeah, that was part of the joke. That Hatred feels backseated because he legitimately is, because...
Yeah, and it was super depressing because I really like Hatred.
Yeah, but he's still a really good guy, which is an incredible thing to say given his character
Yeah,
arc.
we're not talking about that. I would get in trouble.
I will say that, like, straight up, he's one of the more obvious cases of, like, one stupid joke character and not even necessarily good jokes. But they're like, hey, you know what? What if we, like, did this right and then made him better and just ignored that we ever did that, essentially, by not retconning
Fixing
it,
it.
magically fixing it, and then just using him as a great character. And it's like, they could have just introduced a new character, but they decided to use him, and it makes it even better.
Yeah, he had an arc. Like, I will say, if you do start watching it, don't think badly of me for liking Hatred.
Yeah.
Because he starts out as a disgusting piece of words I cannot say on YouTube.
Yep.
Like, I cannot deny that at all. He was horrible at the start. But he grows, and...
Yep. And again, they kind of use magic nonsense to help him grow, because they're just like, well, we're going to solve this by this. And it's like, but it fits in the universe they're in, which is like crazy nonsense spy junk and super detectives and super science
like,
and whatnot.
They have spaceships in outer space.
Yeah, and
like,
you know, hover carriers. And
the technology is not our Earth.
Like, the other thing to say that I love about the show is it spoofs so many
Oh my god,
things.
it makes so many references.
Yeah, to things from all sorts of decades and eras, because again, it's basically two friends just bouncing off each other all the jokes they think would be funny about, but like, you know, Liz hates this character, but there's a character named Hunter Gathers.
Yeah.
First of all, that name is clearly a dumb name, but it's even dumber when you see the character and realize he is a one-for-one parody of Hunter S. Thompson. Like, it's not even close. And he happens to be one of the top spies of the secret spy organization. It's utterly ridiculous, and it's wonderful. And he is a fountain of references that Hunter S. Thompson probably would have actually made. Like, it's just so... And like, they're not just like, ha ha ha, remember... you know, Star Trek or what, like, they're legitimately clever observations or jokes or usages, like, whenever he's trying to, you know, code, like, you know, like, rather than, like, yes, Gilligan is down or whatever, he's got all these stupid sayings he has that are references to movies or shows or other things, and that's just one character. The show is just overflowing with incredibly clever references.
There were so many references, and there were quite a few that before you knew me, you would not have gotten those
Absolutely.
references.
Yes, I'm aware that is brand band from the 60s or 70s or 80s or whatever. He's the guy from Depeche Mode. Like, there's so...
They made a Duran Duran reference at one point, too.
Yes, they did. The Durans, yeah.
No, Duran Duran.
No,
and they actually said it properly. They said Duran
pretty
Duran.
sure they said the Durans.
No, they really didn't. And
no,
I'm not
'cause
rewatching the show to prove it to you, but I know I'm right.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure.
Google it, babe.
So, either way, again, like, if you were to say, oh, the show is full of referential humor and some toilet humor and, you know, like, subversion of what you'd expect for that world, like, you'd be like, oh, so this is, like, funny maybe in college or, like, you know, a couple of bit jokes, but like, they turned it into something so much more than that. And, they did it, it looks effortless. Now, granted, they took, like, 6 years between seasons, and they got canceled twice. I hope this one doesn't stick, but it probably will, because last I heard they were kind of done writing it.
I mean, it was a pretty solid ending. Like,
yeah,
if we don't get any more, I'm not going to cry about it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, because there's, like, one or two other things that I really would have liked to have seen them wrap up. Little hanging mysteries, or just jokes, or arcs. There's a few moments that, as Robert was talking about, that we didn't get to see because the movie doesn't have time to really focus on the moments correctly. They really like to do an episode. Well, they don't always do it, but they do occasionally do an episode where, like, you see one group of characters' point of view for an entire episode, and then the next episode you see what the other characters were doing during that time. And they kind of ended their final season having shown what's going on for one character during a period of time, but you don't really see how certain events unfolded for the other character. And so you're kind of left without any context on that, other than some earlier episode stuff that implies it.
Who?
Dean's side of the whole Hank and Dean.
Oh.
Yeah. Because, like, Hank is in a blizzard and...
Yeah, I get you. I mean, I feel like there's nothing to tell. I feel like it's completely obvious.
There's a lot to tell there. I'm pretty sure I know roughly where they were going with it, just from stuff I've read and, like, just how they tell stories. And I suspect / know that, like, they wanted to give it more nuance than just what you saw.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't really change the story, especially now that we've got the movie, which at least wraps up
that horrible arc that I didn't like.
I think it fits perfectly.
I hated it. I still hate it.
Yeah, you hate it just because it's real.
No. That would never happen to me.
It doesn't have to happen to you. It's a thing that could happen to many people, especially people in that scenario, as similar a scenario as you can find in real life.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it personally frustrates you on 8 different levels, but it's a very good arc, especially for those characters. Because, like, the show's called Venture Brothers, and one of the things it plays with is, like, who are the Venture Brothers? Because there's a surprising number of candidates to that question. The answer might surprise you. But that's kind of the point, is that, without going directly into it, these two characters have been, you know, pretty much on the same team the entire show, because they're literally a dumb joke at the beginning, and there's a literal in-universe moment where they kind of have to grow up because they can no longer be a dumb joke. And that's both... The writers were considering ending the show at that point, but they were like, well, now that we have to continue, we're going to eventually get rid of this crutch and make them grow up. And so, but they've always been brothers, even when, like, they finally start developing as people and are going different routes, they're still always good brothers. And this is the only time in the entire show where there's any real conflict between them. And it's a serious conflict, and it's really interesting seeing how they handle that, and the whole, like, you know, them being better than their parents.
True.
Yeah. Who arguably didn't deal with any brothers. I do wonder about a certain theory that I was going to bounce off Robert, but I've decided not to go into that, and it'll make no sense to the viewers at home, so...
Yeah. So, honestly, I don't think anybody watching this channel would genuinely like it, because I feel like
if you like it,
you're
you already know
a woman,
about it.
You're probably a woman, and there's a lot of potty humor and a lot of stuff that I was not a teenage boy, so I wouldn't have found it funny when I was younger. I don't find it funny now. You know, I'm just saying.
I know several women who enjoy it, but at the same time, it's the sort of show where if you enjoy it, you probably already know about it.
Yeah.
There's very
They
few,
probably don't know about it.
there's few exceptions like you who have the breadth of knowledge of the references they're making, but haven't come across the show. And to be fair, there's some percentage that came across the show and went, "This is dumb," and dropped it, which is a perfectly reasonable reaction to a lot of the early stuff. Although,
I mean, if you did start it and you dropped it because it was dumb, it does get better. It's not 100% better, because even the final episode and the movie it ends on has nasty potty humor, but it has way better jokes by the end.
and
It's
also
much
not
better.
it's not as nearly as focused on as it is early on.
True.
There is still one episode you haven't seen.
Oh, the very, very first one?
The pilot, yeah.
Yeah, no, we're keeping it that way.
Yeah,
Everyone
I feel like
tells
you
me
should
it's
just
not
have to
worth it.
watch 5 seconds of it to see just how atrocious the animation is. And
Okay.
you'll get to see the Monarch's original costume.
Aw.
He's worn it a few times. You've actually seen it before, but you'll be like,
okay.
oh, wow, they were actually referencing something they already did. Okay. And Augustus St. Cloud.
That means nothing to me.
He's
Oh, the Thundercloud kid?
he's literally just
Ugh,
a background
I hated
character.
him.
He's not a kid.
The
he's
Monarch
an adult.
is great. I love the Monarch.
I have
Him
no
and
need
Dr.
to know.
Mrs. My wife.
Dr. Mrs. My wife.
I love her.
Sweetie.
All right, I'm tired. We've been recording for 30 minutes, so it is almost 11 o'clock. I want to go to bed.
Good night, Liz.
Bye! And that is the end of Star Wars Stormtrooper Day 7. I got 1 hour and 18 minutes of footage. I have the hiccups. So, more blue. More blue. My red highlighter died, and so I started switching to a pink. I don't want to put this too close and get in trouble. So, like, you can see where I switched to pink instead of red. And, yeah, I think it'll work, but these hiccups are killing me. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything else because I'm just going to keep hiccuping. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all of that jazz. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I was expecting to hiccup in the middle of a sentence during my outro, like what just happened. And then it happened at a midpoint. I didn't hiccup during any of that. Usually holding my breath actually doesn't work. But either way, even if it worked, I'm gonna get hiccups. This is the first time today, right? I'm still gonna get the hiccups like 4 or 5 more times throughout the day. And if David watches this one, he can comment down below how it's true, because he's seen it happen, that any day I get the hiccups, it's throughout the entire day. So, alright, this is too long, I apologize. I already did my sign off, so, yay!